distance. Just a moment. We are a rather big university for Greek standards. We have about 45 students in total. We offer more than 50 study programs and a number of VET courses. And within this university, we have established the DAISY research group, Dynamic Ambient Intelligence Socio-Technical Systems, since 20 years. We do research, we participate in projects and try to develop technology that adapts and supports to human needs and not the other way around. We are now about 60 people in the group and we keep growing. This is our expertise in the group, mostly educational technology, different kinds of educational technology, platforms, content, MOOCs, games, social computing, and so on, different aspects of education, like STEAM education, inclusive education, IoT and mobile systems, and so on, but also a lot of work on digital skills, competencies, lifelong learning, upskilling, and so on. This is a list of our projects, just to show you that out of these projects, quite a few are related to inclusion, multiculturalism, support of digital competencies for inclusion, and so on. And I will talk about these projects quickly in my presentation, very quickly, I promise. The scope of my talk, having said all this, is that in my view, open universities can and should play a key role in facilitating an inclusive education. And I think this has become even more evident during this diversity and inclusion task force that we have established, the EDU has established, and we are participating in. Very interesting knowledge and experience has come out of this task force. And because we are open universities, our role cannot be confined within the boundaries of campus and academic community, but should extend to the society. We are, I think, the best actors, the best suited actors to promote this kind of achievements and policies at national and international levels. And that is why this is what we're doing in Hellenic Open University through different projects. Some background which is the background also for my talk. Through our research, we have identified 5+1 factors that can reach to exclusion or discrimination and apply to academia and beyond, and my presentation is structured around them. Ethnicity, gender and sexual orientation, and age, disability, accessibility, and also competencies, especially digital competencies after this situation with the pandemic. There are also factors that relate to the interplay between these discrimination factors, what we call intersectionality, and this will lead to can lead to multiple discrimination and exclusion, a very difficult issue to tackle. As we have discussed already during the task force on diversity and inclusion, these are some dimensions of inclusion related to education at institutional and societal level. The three pillars of education, the educator, the student, and the institute are all involved, but also policies and sectors from society. Now, let's start with the different, let's say, sectors and topics. The first one, ethnicity and culture. What is necessary is to train teachers and staff in intercultural competencies, or even employ intercultural mediators to support this activity. It's not only that the university should accept students from different cultural backgrounds, but we must be able to train these students and provide them equal opportunities. Then provide education, training, and reskilling opportunities to the student, which entails, as our experience has shown, recognition of prior learning or skills. That's another difficult issue because many people coming from who are migrants or refugees don't carry papers. So there must be other ways to recognize the prior learning and skills. And also very important to make society aware of cultural differences in the different aspects and sectors, and respect cultural differences, very important, especially for Europe. So in HOU, we offer a special course on these topics that we call language education for migrants. And this course is designed for teachers and graduates who want to understand how to teach a language course in different languages. And we develop resources that they can use. So the course offers a background in theoretical literature, but also methodologies, planning tools, and so on for educational practice. It accepts Greek and also non-Greek students who wish to teach or be involved in adult education in refugee or migrant environments. It's an MSc course of 2 years. And then we have done other activities as well. We have contributed to the establishment of the national profile of intercultural mediator, which has been now officially approved by the state. We have developed the national register of intercultural mediators commissioned by the ministry. We developed online platforms to support intercultural mediators and training outline in different projects, training outlines for intercultural mediator, for the training of intercultural mediators, and also a course outline on diversity management in adult education. And now we are running a few projects on the topic. One of them, MILE, is addressed to training not only the migrants, but also the employers of migrants in the benefits of employing migrants, third country nationals, as we call them. We have different instruments in this tool, like working groups, study visits, capacity building sections, and so on. And two important outcomes. One is a report that's called Voices of European Employers, Challenges and Benefits of the Inclusion of Migrants in the Labor Market. That is the result of a desk and research and qualitative and quantitative research. And the main outcomes show that employers have generally low awareness of how to use internship or apprenticeship programs for hiring non-EU citizens, low awareness of hiring policies that encourage diversity, and also language is a big barrier here. And the second one is a handbook that we developed based on the first report for employers, diversity in the workplace, challenges and benefits of inclusion of third country nationals, in which we give advice how to manage diversity by promoting inclusion, how to look at immigrant people as a resource for companies, what are the opportunities, obstacles, how one can start with this, what are the legal issues, and benefits and challenges. Another project that started already just now, it's called RANCER, and its aim is to improve the refugees' economic integration based on social innovation and social entrepreneurship, and in long term to empower refugees to become active economic actors of their own integration in the host society and contribute to the local and regional sustainable economic development. This project has just started and will implement different measures, among them a business hackathon, of business plans. Going to the second area now that relates to gender and social sexual orientation. Here we identify two big, let's say, broad subdomains. One relates to women and then the other one to the other social genders. In HOU, we have the student ombudsman for the moment, in which all students, including women, can address. But then we are building now, we're establishing the Gender Equality Committee, and we will build the Gender Equality Plan. We are promoting the use of gender inclusive language, and we are planning an MSc, a master's course on enhancing the role of women in science and technology. But then we have implemented different projects. One of them that has finished now is called Entrepreneurship for Women, and this aimed at improving digital entrepreneurial skills of disadvantaged women for better employment. We developed training program and training course, guidebooks, and then we empowered a lot of people, about 200 women all over, in order to improve their training entrepreneurial skills. This is a training program which was based on adopted a project-based approach and trained them in how to initiate a project, plan a project, present and close a project. It was very, very successful. Already some of these women started their own companies. And this is a guidebook that came out of that with different, this is all digital, of course, and can be downloaded from the project website, how to make ideas happen, especially targeted for women, and stories of successful women who achieved that. A new project that we are running now, we just started, it's called Spark Digi Girls, and has to do with empowering girls' creativity through the use of digital technology, especially new technologies such as augmented reality, virtual reality, AI, IoT, and so on. We are going to target secondary school girls and also their tutors and train them. That's new, no results yet. Another project very important that finished was targeted to migrant women. And we tried to implement an integration model for them so that they can be integrated in the society through different direct interventions. The results was 10 good practices and how to transfer them in different countries for the integration of migrant and refugee women, a guide for policymakers, a peer learning methodology and training material, different methodologies for empowerment, mentoring, workshops, and so on, and online peer learning platform. One of the outcomes is this booklet that gathers the testimonies of migrant and refugee women, stories of change, a very nice document. It is advised as a nice reading. We are now running a really important project, participating actually, that's called Xenia. And the objective is to turn higher education institutions into inclusive places that promote social dialogue. And we are going to develop and implement an innovative higher education institution inclusiveness index. We are halfway through the project. We have already reviewed 130 pieces of literature, and our inclusiveness index has 5 thematic areas: institution, policies and programs, support services, academic life and pedagogy and academic programming, 65 indicators and 36 sub-indicators listed in the report and accessible through the project website. And we have already developed a glossary in 5 languages and the best practice tool again in 5 languages for gender equality, but also social gender equality. The next section has to do with disability and accessibility. And here, in addition to accessibility, we identify disadvantaged people, different kinds of disadvantages, and the elderly. In HUU, all our services are online, so people, at least there are no barriers in accessing these services except technological barriers, for which I will talk in the next section. We offer digital readers, an accessible HUU website, accessibility support via the library, and a couple of projects for example, this one, Intour, which is focused on accessible tourism. So we are developing 2 new profiles called Inclusive Tourism Manager, Inclusive Tourism Frontline Staff, plus training curricula, plus training content for these profiles. And we have identified 25 management occupations, 37 frontline staff occupations, 18 key activities that are related with the inclusive tourism sector. Another one related but targeted to young people is the Hackad project, Social Academy, and this aims to upskill young people in the verge of exclusion so that they can work with representatives of civil society organizations. We are using a social hackathon in this project. We have trained the sessions, trained the trainers. We have already conducted training sessions for young people, and now after summer, the national hackathons will take place. We have the platform, training material, everything is there. And the hackathon will take place, as I said, right after summer in the participating countries. Remida is a project that also targets disadvantaged adults in order to support their work inclusion by defining and testing an innovative model of intervention aimed at personal empowerment based on Lego serious play. This is the methodology, combination of adult education methodologies, Lego serious play, best practices, and valorization of informal skills. And we address not only adults, disadvantaged adults, but also training trainers. This is a nice project that supports entrepreneurship, again, of disadvantaged people, but based on the idea of Roman roots. So following there was a reason that Roman roots were planned that way in the ancient world. We follow the Roman roots, and now we have made available online mini courses about entrepreneurship, business planning, and so on, designed for university students, and they are free, available through the project website. And finally, digital competencies. This is my, let's say, domain of expertise. Here we identify educational material and services offered by universities, but also support for the development of digital skills. In HUU, the entire education process, as I said already, supported by online platforms. All meetings with tutors take place via WebEx. All learning material is available online via tailor-made reading app. All exams take place online via tailor-made platform. Then we offer different platforms for student enrollment, certificates of attendance and participation, grading exams, communication, submission of application and selection of tutors all take place online. Guides how to use a platform and anytime support, an online gazette and online events. So a lot of digital support offered by the university, plus 2 MOOCs. The first one is targeted to the tutors of the university, which includes teaching them in adult distance and adult education, but also how to use online technologies to support that. And the second one was developed during the pandemic to support the Greek school teachers in teaching from a distance and using online technologies. Different projects that we run. This is a new one called Olmedu and aims at the creation of an open lab for the upskilling of higher education institution staff in online management education. All the objectives relate to developing competencies, developing content, and so on. Re-Educo is running now for almost 1 year, and again we train the teachers and professors in digital culture, innovative seminars, orientation seminars, and training courses related to digital skills. This was a very important project that has finished. A digital competence development system will create a complete environment, self-assessment, learning pathways, training material, certification, all based on Digicom 2.1. And as a result, we developed a self-assessment tool for digital competencies that is now included in the Digital Academy for Greek citizens, freely available to all Greek citizens. Also the My Digi Skills, which is linked to Europass. Also, we have developed a lot of MOOCs for the development of digital competencies in various sectors like museum professionals, cultural professionals, smart city employees, library employees, caregivers, and so on. I'm not going to go into details. Plus, to take care of the age inclusion, a MOOC for intergenerational learning. All these are results of different projects that we have participated in, and all are still available. So to summarize, HUU makes great effort, intensive effort to open doors and build corridors. We need both. We need to open doors for people to get in and corridors for people to go from one place to the other to be able to move and communicate. So everyone can be member of a modern society and move freely between its different domains. So it's we are, as a university, outwards inclusive. I would like to, this is a term I came up with. We are looking very much into how we could support society to become inclusive at all levels. Our target groups in society, of course, are teachers, professors, and educators, but also through our connection and our national scope, policymakers, mediators, employers and employees, of course, migrants, then disadvantaged groups and groups at the risk of exclusion, and of course our students, but also young people, students at schools, and elders. Our main instrument, of course, we are a university, so it's education and training, different kinds and types. We use online platform, freely available material. We make our material freely available. We do campaigns, we organize events and workshops, and of course a lot of publications. And I'm closing here. These are our training platforms. The e-learning platform, you can see here different e-learnings for different projects that I mentioned already during the presentation. And to the right is our MOOC platform with some of the MOOCs I mentioned and some other MOOCs that are related to other topics. And this is our contact points, our website, the platforms, different social media that we use. You can find us, as I said, this was supposed to be a very intensive, informationally rich presentation. But if you want knowledge, please contact us and we will be happy to provide it to you. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thanks, Achilles. Thanks so much. And you didn't promise too much, a lot of information there. And that also explains your active participation in our task force on diversity and inclusion, as you represent so many different initiatives and fields of expertise. There was a question in the chat about if there is also a toolbox created for employers to use to hire inclusively.
Sorry, let me see. Have you created a toolbox for employers to use to hire inclusively? We have created, let's say, a guide, as I said, and We are doing now empowerment trainings for employers and in the different countries that participate in the project. The methodology for the trainings, the content and the experience, of course, will be recorded. These are now taking place, and we are a bit delayed in this because of the pandemic, but when we finish, they will be recorded and will be made available on site together with the guide.
Thanks. And all the information that you have captured in the slides, we will share with all.
I will send it to you, of course, yes, for sharing.
Any other immediate questions there? How can we avoid silos, for instance, for women training?
Please define silos.
Maybe you can take the microphone, Claudine.
For instance, specific training for women, how can you make the transition for after for them to be inclusive and mixed with men's cultures, especially for migrants from different cultures, more discriminating women?
What we did for migrant women is to organize, I wouldn't call them workshops, well, which like, let's say interventions. They had the form of get together informally, completely, with women of local societies. So they found some common interests and they were working together in this. Somehow our aim was to make the two, I don't like to say this is just for the sake of discussion. The two sides, let's say, to see each other as equal, as peers. So in the end, they would intermingle. That was the aim, and the testimonies that we got in this very nice book show that the methodology we applied worked. It's also, the methodology is available online in the project website. Now, on not concerning migrant women, but let's say women in general, you know, I participate in the Greek network of gender equality committees, and I'm aware of most of the activities that take place. And my concern is that almost only women participate in these activities, while it should be men who should participate in these activities mostly. So we need to go both ways. We need to empower women, but also make men, bring men into again these groups. To I don't know how to put it, to make them to understand that there is no difference. Let's put it simply like that, and you know what I mean. But for me, this is one of our let's say policies and our strategies. We want to bring more men into the discussions about women, of course, together with women. Okay, it's not that men talk about women; it's that they all talk together. Not only women talk about women. This is another kind of exclusion that we would like to avoid. I don't know if I responded. We could be talking for hours about this. I mean, I'd be very happy to talk about this.
Yeah, and I think Kirsty is agreeing with you that include them in the change, so it's not seen as a threat. I guess that's in line. Just saying, yeah, Claudine.
Including, I don't know if change is the best word to use here, but okay, for the sake of discussion, let's use it. It's not a matter of seen as a threat, but to create understanding, to understand the differences, but also the equal competencies. For me, this is really important for both sides, let's say. But not only women and men, also the social gender should be included, for which we tend to forget about, but we must include them there as well. I think they are more even discriminated than women.
Mm-hmm. It's important to understand the common benefits as women. Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, the dialogue is important to have them all involved. Yeah. Thanks so much, Achilles. Maybe we can have other questions still later on. Let me first, so thanks, Achilles. We like to continue now with Tiberio, another experienced expert. Tiberio is director of UNIDIS at UNED Service for Students with Disability, and he's going to talk about institutionalization of diversity and inclusion. So the floor is yours, Tiberio.
Good afternoon.
works.
Good afternoon. Well, so it's a pleasure for me sharing with you some reflections about our experience in inclusion, especially in inclusion with people with disabilities, but not only. What I'm presenting this afternoon is in three parts. The first one, I'm reviewing some concepts related to institutionalization, and after I'm analyzing our experience and the main facts of institutionalization in our experience, and also I'm finishing with some reflections and recommendations. To situate our action at UNED, UNED is a public state university for the whole Spain, the whole state. And we have also several centers outside Spain, in Europe, and especially in Europe and in America. We have around 200,000 students. And in this number, this year, 9,000 are students with disabilities. So it represents around 5.6% of our students are students with disabilities. To compare it, in Spain, the percentage is 1.5. That means in general, in higher education in Spain, only 1.5% of their students are people with disabilities. We have also different programs related to other kinds of diversities. I'm commenting them, but this is the main action we have. We have also a specific program for people in prisons, a specific program for older people, a specific program also for the economic gap, for people without resources, and also a specific program for the army when the Spanish army is in foreign countries in special missions, for instance, in Africa, in other countries. So we have a special program also for them. So firstly, I'm commenting some ideas about the concepts we are talking about as diversity, inclusion, and institutionalization. What is diversity? Diversity, it is clear as we know it. That means everybody is different. There are no two people exactly the same. Everybody is different. The problem, so it's obvious. The problem begins when we talk about differences that are invisible. And there are a lot of differences that are invisible. And that means about our features, personal features. And also the problem is not related really with differences, but which are the valuations and which is the consequence in the everyday life of these differences. Sorry. And what is inclusion? Inclusion is not, as I could say Shakespeare, to be or not to be inside. This is a part of the problem, to be inside. To be included, you need to be inside the university in this case. But it's only a part of the problem, because the main problem is not at this moment really to be inside, but how you are inside. And not only how you are, which are the means you have to be inside, but also how do you feel inside? And this is a very important question when we talk about inclusion. That is, we have to provide good conditions, but it's not sufficient. We have also to take care about how people feel inside when they are inside the university in this case. That means inclusion is not only an individual dimension, it's mainly, I think, a social dimension. Because when you are inside the community, and then you are inside in relationship with other people. And so it's very important how you feel in this group, in this community. And the last question as concept is also what is the institutionalization? It's when you institutionalize something as inclusion, you have to think about, you are creating a new concept, a new conception. That means it's not really the same institution. You are thinking about another kind of institution. That means you have to change the organization, the establishment, and also the governance. You can't govern, you can't manage the institution by the same way in a non-inclusive and in an inclusive institution. But the objective with the pass of the time is that you are creating a tradition. A tradition means you are creating new meanings, new symbols, new ways to understand the relationship of students with their institution. And this is the main goal that sometimes, and some authors have named, we are creating an inclusion culture. And this is very important to think about this concept. We are creating a new culture, a new way to stay, a new way to relationship of everybody with the other bodies and with the institution. So we are analyzing some aspects of this institutionalization, and I'm using a well-known scheme created by Rudyard Kipling in his famous poem, 6 honest serving men. I don't know if they are really men or they are women, but they could be also women. But it's a way to explain some aspects of the institutionalization, organizing it with this scheme, the 6 questions, basic questions. So the first one is what? What are we talking about when we talk about institutionalization? In university, in this case, the institution is the university. We are talking about how we are management, how we are organizing our institution, and also which kind of rules do we need to carry out the inclusion. And in this case, we have created specific services as UNIDIS, that is a specific service to support students with disabilities. But we have mainly we have thought about processes. It's very important to think not only about services and people and staff, but mainly what are they doing? That means we need rules, but not only rules, how we are carrying out these rules in the practice, in everyday life. And this is why we have several protocols or descriptions of how is our work, our job, which are the steps a student or a teacher or another member could connect with us and could receive our support. But also we need to provide, we need providing means. Sometimes we also we only think about people, but people need means. We can't think about creating services without means. Means mean not only money, it means money, but also other kinds of means. The second question is why? Why institutionalization? Because we think that is related to inclusion is related to our mission. That means it's a part of the definition of university. It's a part of the concept of higher education. So it's very important to conceive that inclusion is a part of us. It's not adding another thing. It's not, we can't conceive at this moment university or higher education if it's not inclusive. So it's an essential part of our definition. And we have to think about it as this. So it's also a part of our image for society, for people, for our members, for students, and generally for society. And it's also a symbol for us. When we talk about our university, inside or outside our centers, we always talk about also people with disabilities or prisons or the army, because they are very important symbols for us. That means we are trying to achieve everybody in every place. And it's very important to include this meaning in our definition as institution, as university. So that means we are creating also a specific, our own history, integrating in it all these parts of these different strategies and ways to include different kinds of people. The third question is when you are thinking about inclusion at every moment. It's not a part in specific moments. Inclusion is at every moment. It's not only in inscription, in registration. It's not only in learning. It's not only in exams. It's at every moment you need to think about inclusion. And that means you are planning it sometimes in long term. And so if you have a strategic, as we have a strategic plan, you have to include in it some aspects of inclusion, but also in the year plan or in everyday life. We need to have several timings to include also the aspects of inclusion. The fourth question is how. The how is perhaps the most complex question, because we are thinking about all the ways, all the strategies, all the means we need to institutionalize inclusion. And so there are a lot of procedures related to planning, related to meetings with people to explain to our members of the community what we want to include everybody in our institutions. That means also we need evaluation, we need reports, we need persons in charge to carry out the activities, to coordinate teams, to coordinate groups in services. And I think at this moment, it's also very important, including these procedures, innovation, because innovation is also a very important task and feature of the university at this moment. And so I think it's also a good strategy relating the inclusion with the innovation. We have to update our rules, and we have done it, not only in general rules, but also in operative rules for different procedures for exams, for instance. And we have also to apply universal design. The problem of universal design, it was universal designs, from my point of view, doesn't solve all the problems. It's a very good solution. It's a very holistic solution, but it doesn't solve all the problems because a lot of reasons. And so we have to combine universal design with also adjustments. When you need some kind of adjustment, do it. There is no problem. But it's very difficult to design a universal design, a universal design for everybody at any time and in every place, previewing, considering all the different factors and differences to previously. It's very difficult. And another question is where? Where, that means that anywhere, that's right. In our case, our geography is quite complex because we have a central university at Madrid with several faculties, but that's after we have 60 centers around Spain and also in foreign countries. That means when we talk about inclusion, we have to think not only in relationship with the students we are seeing or we are meeting at Madrid, we have to think about situations that we are not seeing, that we could imagine in another center, in another country, but we are not staying there when we are meeting with other teachers or with our center in another city. That means this kind of strategies, for us, the best solution is the distribution. That means we have to combine to have specific services and specific staffs that are attending, that are carrying out, that are preparing inclusion, and that are providing means. But we have also to think about a distribution of functions. That means inclusion is possible only if everybody in this institution is also working for inclusion. Each teacher, each student, each tutor, each administrative staff has to work for inclusion. It's not only the role of the function of a specific service. Specific service is very important, but it's not sufficient. We need to think with a disseminate strategy. We have to think globally, as we say, but we have to think about how solving problems locally, in another town, in another time, in another city. And at this moment also in distance education, we have to think about that the where is not only a physical where, a physical place, it's also the virtual place. And a very important part of our activity is not physically present, it's virtually present. So when we think about where, we have also to think about virtual spaces, virtual environments, where our students are learning. And so they are communicating, they are be assessed, and so on. So we are talking about accessibility, for instance. I was commenting previously our colleague. And the last one is who. Everybody has to be implicated in inclusion, that's right. But that means we need to design the strategies. We have also to have persons in charge and to implicate everybody in the processes. It's not only the responsibility of one person in charge in the faculty, no. Everybody in the faculty is a person of charge of inclusion. And only when we are able to conceive and this kind of culture where everybody is a part of inclusion, we could really advance in a real inclusion of everybody. That means we need some people that is specialized. That's right. The staff of the service has to know much more than every student or every teacher, but they have to know how to work with people and to achieve that everybody is doing well his work by the way that this work is giving opportunities to everybody. Well, I think I have to finish according my time. And when some reflections to end with these ideas. The institutionalization has some effects. Some impacts are positive, but also we have to think about negative effects. For instance, when you institutionalize something as inclusion, you are giving people much more opportunities and much more guarantees. That's right. But you have also facilitating limits, because, for instance, you will have deadlines. You can't do anything at any time. For instance, to organize adjustments, you need to have deadlines. That means some people will be out the deadline and will not receive adjustments, for instance. So you have also to evaluate the two phases, not only the benefits, but also the negative effects. To avoid, or at least to reduce these negative effects, we could talk about this general idea as the culture of inclusion, and also to try to normalize the rights. At the beginning, you need to talk about the rights and the obligations of each one, but you have to try to normalize the actions and the procedures without thinking if there is a rule or there is not a rule. We have to include because it's good for everybody. And we have to think about the welfare, the feeling of people, much more than in rules or in rights and so on. At this moment, I think we still need positive actions. In our case, we have, for instance, a reservation in master degrees for people with disabilities. We have different kinds of reducing in registration. In Spain, students have to pay for the registration in universities, and we have reductions for different kinds of peoples. So at this moment, I think we still need positive actions. Perhaps in future, we will not need them, but at this moment, I think we need still positive actions. And finally, some wishes, some recommendations for people who is working specifically for inclusion. Always we are trying to be positive, but we have to be clement. That means when we see some things doesn't work, we have to ask for improvement. And that means it's easy. Perhaps we are not carrying out the good results, but we have to clam when we see something is not working. We have to be able to negotiate also. I think it's better negotiation instead only clamants, because I think we have to think to convert people, to convince people that inclusion is better than exclusion. So we have also to be patient. We have to think globally, but we have also to solve locally, individually, because every person, everybody is different. Each problem really is different. And so we need rules, we need a good framework, but after we have to analyze and to solve specific problems. And each problem is different from another problem. We have to be also proactive. Proactive means we can't wait that the problems arrive. We have to look for, we have to promote, we have to carry out inclusion with positive actions, and we have to promote, we have to look for inclusion really. And the last one is is very clear also for me, is don't stop never. And that's all. To listen now your questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tiberio, for your passionate talk. And it's clear your message is it is an institution-wide responsibility, which means that it is also about a cultural change, a mindset, institution-wide, that affects everyone in the institution to think inclusive and have that also supported at an institutional level. I see some messages here. Let me check. Could you tell us how you integrate ergonomy in creating services and intercultural approaches? By Claudine, could you tell us how you integrate ergonomy in creating services?
Yes, when people have no means, we have several kind of economical helps. In Spain, we have two levels for economical helps. Scholarships. One is from the ministry directly. The ministry has the competence, the central competence for all levels, and they have different kinds of scholarships, of economical helps. And after inside our institution, we have also specific helps. One way is with reductions. For instance, for families who have 3 or more children, or for instance, for people with disabilities have free registration. They have not to pay anything to access to university, for instance, or these kinds of helps we have inside unit. But there are also different ways by the ministry. So there are as 2 general ways to fight the economical problems of people. Sorry.
Yeah, thanks. Any other remark or question for Tiberio? At this moment, yeah, well, I can tell you that Tiberio and Achilles and many others also here present at this meeting are part of our task force Diversity and Inclusion, and we are preparing currently a full overview of measures and good practices in relation to diversity and inclusion under the different subcategories that we have identified. And you will all be interested, I guess, in the end results that will be presented in our conference in Bari in the first week of November, and we certainly will. You can find certainly a lot of information on that on our dedicated conference website of EDTU, and the publication will be announced in our newsletter also in the end of this year. Further, so I want to thank Tiberio and Achilles for this afternoon's presentations. Thanks so much, and I see it's very much appreciated by the audience. Our next meeting of the webinar week, we have not set the date yet, but we will announce it soon, is about micro-credentials in higher education, and expected to take place in the midst of October. Again, thank you for the speakers of this afternoon and for your attendance. Yeah, and well, hope to see you in our webinar week after the summer. Thanks. Bye bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.